For the second Sprint Cup round of the season in GT World Challenge Europe powered by AWS, we are by the seaside. We are at Zandvoort in Holland, and qualifying is about to get underway. Qualifying in two parts, because such is the size of the entry this weekend that we are going to have a split qualifying. So there is Q1A and Q1B, two groups. You've got the Pro and Gold, you've got Silver and Bronze separated. And on a fairly blustery morning, although the weather is warmer and sunnier than yesterday, it's going to be really interesting to see who comes out on top in terms of times. Yesterday, Ferrari's looking good, but also fast forward to the racing, because the first race comes up later on today. 41 cars we have in the entry this weekend. It's going to be a really crowded house indeed, and part of the reason for the split qualifying is to give people track position, also let them have a bit more breathing space in the pit lane when we go racing as well. The pit window slightly staggered just to try and alleviate some of the pressure in the pits. We go from Brands Hatch and the Grand Prix circuit then to Zandvoort, David Addison and Joe Osborne trackside. And Joe, this is another kind of old school circuit.
Yeah, like Brands Hatch, up and down as well. The track map never shows the elevations, but it's like a roller coaster through the dunes here. You can see the sea in the background there, 4.3 kilometers. It's pretty tight round here in places, so 41 cars is going to be action-packed start to finish.
And you've got the relatively recent addition of the banked corners, one of which is just to the left as you look down from the drone at the Hugenholz Bocht. The other is the final corner, the Aurelian-Dyke Bocht. And there in the pit lane, number 32 BMW, the WRT entry. That had a gearbox drama yesterday. The other BMW that the team operates, number 30, or one of the others, that also had a mechanical gremlin that spat the car off the road and did some bodywork damage during the pre-qualifying session. Pre-qualifying yesterday, intriguingly, was topped, as you look at a Ferrari, by a Ferrari, but the Eddie Cheever Zingo Sport Tempesta entry. But Thierry Vermeulen, number 69 Ferrari, we know how good he was pole position at Brands Hatch, and lots of people tipping him for pole position here. As Joe has made the point, it's a similar circuit, home advantage maybe, and also, of course, it's a similar track to Brands. It's a Ferrari kind of circuit. We know he's quick. There's an awful lot of boxes ticked that suggest that's going to be a car to beat.
Yep, there's been some BOP tweaks though, so it doesn't always follow suit there. One car that's definitely had a bit of an advantage in BOP is this Ford Mustang. We sort of have a very difficult Brands Hatch, didn't we? Had quite a large off in the practice session. Team had to miss qualifying due to the damage, and then didn't really manage to race forward. This is one car that did race forward. Very good pit stop, boxed a lap later than everyone in race one at Brands, and that led this car to lead and win the race. Had a bit of contact side to side of the Emerald Frey Ferrari, but all was deemed fair between Lulham and Aberil.
We've got three outright newcomers, if you like, to GT World Challenge Europe this weekend, and we've got a further 8 who are making their Sprint Cup debut, one of whom, perhaps surprisingly, is Augusto Farfus. You kind of assume, because he's been around for so long, he must have done Sprint in the past, but he has done the endurance events. The three complete newcomers are Georgi Donkovic for Grasser, Riccardo Baptista for ComTU, and Rafael Suzuki also in one of the ComTU Aston Martins. Now, you just dashed over to the paddock and back, so you know what the temperature is like out there. Are we looking at a warm morning, a cool morning, a blustery morning, and how is all of that going to affect the teams?
Blustery, definitely. It comes off the North Sea here in waves, the wind. So as a driver, you're always looking at the flag. So you can see him in pit lane at the moment, fluttering. So you're always just trying to spot your braking point, dependent on how much those flags are waving. Track temperature is getting up there. It's in mid-17s, but ambient still 11.9. So it's going to be quick this morning. Track was in use yesterday, so track will be rubbered up. But it's going to be finding space as the session goes live. And we saw this at Brands Hatch, didn't we? Everyone wanted to go at the last minute. Yep. They were saying the tyre really has a one-lap peak, so you're waiting as long as you can. But I'm still surprised no one goes earlier just to try and take advantage of this clear track.
Yeah, because, and we said this at Brands Hatch, we'll be saying it in all the sprint rounds, it's only a 10-minute session. The entry effectively halved, so you've got a little bit more track space for this. But even so, you can see everybody waits. Why are the wheels not on? Because the tyres are in the ovens. They're keeping as much temperature in till the last moment. And then when the signal is given from the car controller, if you like, out will come the tyres, on will go the wheels. And then we'll be in business. Patrick Niederhauser yesterday saying this is not a Porsche circuit, really struggling yesterday. Also the McLarens, we understood, had a touch of understeer yesterday, which was affecting them. But Eventually we'll know the story, but not just yet.
Yeah, exactly. And why it doesn't suit those rear-engine Porsches and the mid-engine McLaren so much, mainly the high-speed nature. A front-engine car has a better weight distribution, so for the high floating corners from turns 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 into 9 even, that front engine just helps. The Grasser cars were quick at Brands. Remember, they were disqualified after qualifying due to a non-compliant BOP. We saw stronger yesterday from Mark VDS Boutsen Racing with Martin and Stoltz. They were outside the top 20 at Brands Hatch. They were finally back inside the top 6 yesterday in free practice. The green flag lazily waving, and the marshal almost going, is it really live? Because there's not a single car out there at the moment. And the mechanics looking towards the garage, I'd assume the tyres are coming, and that was the Ziggo Sport AF Course Ferrari. Here we see one of those McLarens, the CSA car. New car to the team this year, but they've started strongly, haven't they?
They have. Just go back to Ziggo Sport. It's less relevant for this session potentially, but when you put Marco Pulcini in the car, he will get a 5-place grid drop on the qualifying session that he will be in, because Pulcini yesterday was done for not respecting the red flag. So he picked up one of the behavioural warning points, but then also for the race that he starts, he will get a 5-place grid drop. So drivers in cars, biding their time, waiting for the right moment, and I think now the Emil Frey team are ready to go. Wheels going on 69 Ferrari, so the track is about to get busy, and we've had now 2.5 minutes of the session.
Yep, and with an outlap's going to be 1 minute 45, so maximum now they've got 4 flying laps, soon to be 3 actually. So, yeah, they're not giving themselves many chances. And remember, a yellow flag, you've got to slow down. Red flag means the session ends, and it is the Emil Frey Ferrari that is first out with 7 minutes remaining.
And also, of course, the other aspect to all of this is track limits, because if you are banking everything on one Banzai lap and your driver exceeds track limits and you get the lap time taken off you, then you are in big trouble. Ivan Ekelchik there, waving to the camera. Right, so one car is on track. Thierry Vermeulen's number 69 Ferrari that was so impressive at Brands Hatch on track. Where it kind of lost out was just slower pit stops.
Yeah, that's where Vermeulen was pretty critical of the team, wasn't he, as well with that. So they would have gone back to base, not much time to practice. And the problem is the top teams are just practicing relentlessly. WRT, with their new factory, are able to just practice as much as they want, essentially. And that really showed at Brands Hatch. They were the quickest by far in the pits.
Yeah, WRT, a couple of days after the Brands Hatch sprint round, opened their new workshop, their new headquarters in Liège. Lots of guests were there. And at the end of the evening, as guests filtered their way around a sort of specially constructed track, mechanics were doing practice pit stops by way of entertainment, if you like. So no wonder they're good at them, because they're almost doing it for a hobby now. So they're number 69 Ferrari. Thierry Vermeulen then, he is joined on track by teammate Consta Lappalainen. Remember, the Emil Frey Ferrari is in different colours because the Verstappen.com entry carries the Red Bull livery. Remember as well, Thierry Vermeulen's father is Max Verstappen's manager, which he's how it all links together. Big whack of the curb there, going down towards the second part of the Hans Ernst Bocht, that chicane towards the end of the lap. Consta Lappalainen is on track. Thomas Neubauer Ferrari is on track. And Sandy Mitchell's Lamborghini is on track as well, as the next one down the pit lane is one of the aforementioned McLarens, number 59. About to break the beam at pit exit and go on track. The Garage 59 car, Leonardo Moncini's Audi is on track, and you've got Adam Smalley going out as well. Right, Vermeulen now starts his first, if you like, semi-flying lap, but he's now got to be mindful that there are slower cars coming out of the pits.
Yeah, setting a big set of 11s out of 1 as well. I was amazed how much he was working tyre temperatures in the final sector. Maybe strategy that Emil Frey don't want to get the tyres too hot in the oven and leave it to the driver running up high through turn 3. Still a bit of dust on track, looking good so far, as we see the MAN Filter 48 Mercedes getting ready to go as well. And these are these sweeping corners I'm talking about. There's no room for error whatsoever. Through turn 7, it tightens slightly on exit, feels awkward, and then widens again into the braking point, into 8. Lots of curb on the apex, decides not to. You can see the dip in the road there, the bump, and then a very late, lazy apex into turn number 9. Some slow cars ahead. He'll be on the headlight flashes. Ignore the purple sectors. Why? Because he's the first car around track. So if he's not purple, there's some kind of issue.
Absolutely right. So Thierry Vermeulen will offer up a benchmark time, but again, it's going to be affected by traffic. Everybody will have this same issue, of course, because everybody's going to encounter another car, but it's kind of down to the team now to release him in the optimum moment. Vermeulen's bailed out of this because he can see just how close he's getting to the traffic ahead. if he feels the tyres are warmer, let that wave of cars go and then push. But the danger is that there are more filtering out of the pit lane at this very moment.
Yeah, I think he could have finished the lap. So I actually think he doesn't think it was going to be a quick lap, and he's bailed for that reason. I think he would have been cleared, especially with a pro AF Ferrari, would have got out of his way. Here's Sandy Mitchell, 3/10 slower than Vermeulen's first sector, but purple in the second, so he will look to finish this lap, rides the curb well through the chicanes at turns 11 into 12. Got Lucas Stoltz in front on the flashes for Sandy Mitchell into the last couple of corners, finished his last break of the lap. Now it's full throttle through this 19 degrees, redesigned when Formula One came back here to make overtaking better here at Zandvoort. Blast through the last corner. I think pole needs to be a low 132. What's Sandy Mitchell got?
Goes across the line and puts himself at the top, a 133.6, big lock-up going into Tarzan. Thierry Vermeulen was in the 37s, but we knew he backed out of that lap. There going through is Thomas Neubauer, who is now fastest, a 133.428 for Neubauer. We've got only 3 minutes of the session to go, and only 4 cars have done a time.
Yeah, insane. And actually the teammates to Neubauer, Rivera, purple in Sector 1, which has just been stolen by Niederhaus in the Rutronic Porsche. This is the car that was fastest in Sector 1. I think this could be our first 1 minute 32 lap time of the lap. Rivera quick in Sector 2 as well. Big slide under braking. Car's looking really, really loose. Was that a tailwind, or was that just the tyres, brakes coming up to temperature? Drivers can change ABS, even the bias settings to help that. But cars looking loose across the board, not just the Ferraris. We've seen the Lamborghini having that lock up into 1, which is pretty rare. He's going to cross the beam. He's not going to get a tow from the car in front. The finish line goes on, and he will finally cross it any second now, and it is a 133.0, not quite the 32s.
So that puts Rivera top, ahead of Luca Engschler, who was briefly the fastest. The best lap we've ever had in a qualifying session, a 32.093 from Raffaele Marciello back in 2022. But at the moment, not suggesting we're going to get quite there, but we'll see as you look then at number 51 Ferrari, Alessio Rivera, fastest driver thus far. We've got just under 2 minutes to go. Stoltz, Wirtz, Chavez, Auer, Pla yet to do a lap. And you've got some big names there that can certainly shuffle the order. Patrick Niederhauser is now fastest. He's done a 133.048, 47 thousandths up on the Ferrari of Rivera. This is Lucas Auer, who is about to, with a personal and an absolute best, come out of the last corner of the Arie Luyendyk bocht through that banked corner. You're on board with the car that won last time out at Brands Hatch up towards the timing line. A low 33, or even better, a high 32 to secure pole position. He comes up to the line. It's going to be a 33, and I'm afraid that's only good enough for 4th fastest, a 133.129. Bit frustrating, no doubt, that for Lucas Auer, because he didn't have anybody to get in the way either. That was a clear lap. Yeah,
it was a bit of a breathless Sector 3, wasn't it? We ride on board, car looking good, a bit too much understeer potentially, so the front not turning as much as he wants. Look how much steering lock he's got on. It could be a shopping trolley through turn 3 there, the way that thing's handling. Now we're flat out through the dunes. It's like a roller coaster without rails through here. You hear the car bottom out as he hits the brakes into turn 7.
Gilles Magnus just quickly goes top then in the Audi at a 133.033. So that puts Magnus to the top by 15 thousandths. Let's focus on Auer.
As we come back in through this last section, it suddenly tightens up. Turn 9, the apex is late. We won't even see it because of the display in the windscreen. Just quickly get it over to the right side for a 180-degree hairpin. Open the steering up and try and get all the way to the exit curb. You can even use a bit of the dirt if needed. You don't seem to lose too much traction into the chicane, so you want to get over to the left, get the car straight, and then brake. There's a few bumps there to unsettle the car, and that's what happens there through the gravel trap. Just didn't look like the car had any retardation under braking, and actually the car behind following through the gravel trap. Is there something down there, or is that driver's pushing once the tyres have gone? But he was definitely followed through the gravel trap behind.
Absolutely, so the car skates off the road. That makes the tyres dirty. We'll see whether Lucas Auer is going to try and clean them. Well, actually the checkered flag is out, so it's all rather academic. Even if he finishes on the track, he won't get another lap out of the session. So Lucas Auer bails for the pit lane, and he will be very disappointed because that in the end puts him 5th. But Gilles Magnus provisionally takes pole position then. He also does that out of gold. So Gilles Magnus in the Audi does a 133.033, and in Pro, Patrick Niederhauser's Porsche, a 133.048, 15 thousandths of a second then, split the top 2.
Yeah, we've got 6 manufacturers in the top 6, covered by 12 hundredths of a second as well. So very, very tight there. I think one of the most disappointed drivers is going to be Vermeulen. Car 69, Emil Frey, we're tipped to be quick, P11. I think going early maybe did hurt them. Maybe the track was rubbering up more than we thought. Obviously here, so close to the beach, you do get the sand, the dust blowing in overnight. First cars on track were these cars in front of us. So I think that was potentially the issue with going early there. But that's going to be a busy race for Emil Frey as a team, 11th and 12th.
And another driver that's going to be disappointed, Charles Weerts, only 15th in the WRT BMW. Now, they didn't qualify brilliantly at Brands Hatch, but they did buy a whole load of places in race 2 there in the pits. But Charles Weerts a long, long way back, and there aren't that many BMWs within the Pro and Gold categorisation. So 15th and 17th is where you find the BMWs. Let's have a look at the order as it stands, because don't forget you've got to blend into this silver and bronze in the next session. But Gilles Magnus then the fastest from Patrick Niederhauser, so that's a Gold Cup entry ahead of a Pro. Alessio Rovera takes 3rd in the times, ahead of Luca Enschler's Lamborghini. Then the best of the Mercedes AMGs, that's Lucas Auer, and 6th, Marvin Kirchhoffer's McLaren. 7th, Jim Pla's CSA McLaren, ahead of Lucas Stoltz. 9th, Sandy Mitchell, then Adam Smalley, Thierry Vermeulen 11th, Constant Lapalainen and his teammate 12th. So bad for Emil Frey for both cars. Thomas Neubauer a long way back, 13th ahead of Enrique Chavez. Then Charles Weerts only 15th ahead of Leonardo Moncini, Alfazal Al-Zubar and Yusuf Ovega in the Ford Mustang to round out the 18. There'll be a bit of head scratching from 1 or 2. There'll no doubt be 1 or 2 teams heading up to see the technical director, Claude Sermon, saying, oh, you know, that BOP, we need a bit of an advantage here. But of course, every team is going to say that. And we're also, yet again, looking at the tiniest of margins, aren't we? Yeah,
so tight. When you consider 4.3 kilometres, so many different natures of corn around here, to get all 10 manufacturers so close is a hard ask. And I think we're in a pretty good place right now with that. So this is this second part of qualifying, session 1B. Like we said earlier, 41 cars. To send them all out in qualifying would not work logistically. So this is the most sensible way of doing it. You can see El Zubair jumping out of the WRT car, body language of the driver looking pretty dejected, but be good to hear from Gilles Magnus, because that was a lap and a half, kind of under the radar. It was 3 good sectors, but not really one stonking one, and that's why he's on pole position.
But also, people kind of dismiss the Audi now. It is an older car. We know that Audi Sport has really scaled down its involvement. They're still supplying customers. And yet, there is a car that, with the right team and the right driver, can still deliver. And Audi has a really good pedigree here. Think back 2 years. It was the Riccardo Fella and Matthew Drudy Audi that won both races and gave them the title. This, then, the fastest car thus far in qualifying. Gilles Magnus wringing the neck out of the Santa Lock Audi, rattling it up the curb, but that was a mighty, mighty effort.
Really, really good. And yeah, Audi have sold the most amount of GT3 cars out of any manufacturer in the world. So yes, we do start to dismiss it as the older car, but it's still a very, very good car. Naturally aspirated V10 engine is always in the window. As we look at the newest car into GT World Challenge, the Corvette run by Stella Motorsport.
And it's going to be the car of Matisse Lismont, Jesse Salmonaudio that will be on track for qualifying 1B. The fast lane is open. That means that the cars now can make their way down to the far end of the pit lane, ready to head out on track. You can see the flags flying in the breeze, as Joe was saying, quite a blustery morning. And that in turn does drag a little bit of the sand onto the circuit, because we are very close to the beach, the seaside town of Zandvoort. But more and more cars heading to the end of the pit lane ready to go. So remember, this is the silver and the bronze session. Now, before you dismiss the bronzes, bear in mind that you only have to have 1 bronze driver, not 2 in the car. And that means there are some big names within the Bronze Cup. So, for example, Augusto Farfus and Darren Lung. Now, Darren is very quick as a bronze, but Augusto Farfus is a platinum graded driver. So it wouldn't be a total surprise to have a Bronze Cup car on outright pole if the right man's behind the wheel.
It really wouldn't. The previous session to this, pre-qualifying, a bronze car was fastest overall. That Ziggo Sport Ferrari we're talking about, with Eddie Cheever behind the wheel. So yes, we do sometimes look at the bronze, but we forget that they can have a factory driver in those cars. It looks like the ComTU Aston Martin slightly confused with some last-minute instructions, but tyres are being brought to that car now. You can see in the background a few cars heading out in the next few minutes. But at the moment, only 2 cars on track, 3 cars now, sorry.
But these are going out sooner, aren't they? Because the trend in Q1A was to have the cars, 2.5 minutes into the session, whereas these have really gone out straight away. Number 30 BMW there, that had a power steering drama yesterday. That's why Gustav Bergström was off the road. Right, the fastest in Pro in Q1A, Patrick Niederhauser. He's with Alexandre Le Guy.
A very nice session for you, Patrick. What's it like out there? It looked a little bit loose.
Yeah, just a little bit. I think, the wind blowing a bit of sand out on the track. So for sure, for the first group now, it wasn't optimal for us. So we kind of cleaned the track probably for the second group now. But it was a very, very good qualifying session for us. So.
With what you've learned so far, what do you feel like it's going to be when you've got 42 cars out there racing?
Well, it's a super cool track. I think it's a good track also for racing in general. Overtaking is not easy, but we always had a lot of action here in Zandvoort, and for sure 42 cars here, it's going to be a good race.
Nicely done, good start.
That point Patrick Niederhauser makes, though, about cleaning the track, could therefore these times be better thanks to all the hard work of the people in the previous 10 minutes?
Yeah, it's almost quite a rare driver excuse, that one, isn't it? Because it's a 2-part qualifying, why he's not going to be on pole. I was in the first session, the dirty session.
Yeah.
I was the sweeper. You might as well put some brushes underneath that Audi and on the Porsche, and we would have been okay. But I think he's right, and I think these times are going to be proportionally quicker. How much? If I'm betting, man, 3-4 tenths of a second maybe. So looking at a pole position time of maybe a 32.5, 32.6.
Okay, well, at the moment, Gilles Magnus is on target for his first ever Sprint Cup outright pole position. But that is not to say it's going to stay that way, because as we've been making the point, there are some big names in this out of the Bronze Cup as well. The manufacturer drivers or platinum graded drivers. Eddie Cheever, for example, as Joe was saying, fastest in pre-qualifying yesterday. He's on track in the Ziggo Sport Tempesta Ferrari. Gustav Bergström off the road yesterday. That power steering issue put him off the track, then did mechanical damage as well as bodywork damage, therefore. But the car repaired overnight, and the blue WRT BMW coming up towards the Kumho Bocht and then into the Ari Leindijk Bocht, or if you prefer, turns 13 and 14 up towards the timing line. This is where all of a sudden you kind of get tipped to one side because of the banking. Try and run around there, it kills your ankles. You've got to really drop down low, but the drivers go all the way up to the wall and then up towards the timing line. So Gustav Bergström goes through. You've got Eddie Cheever on track as well. And the track is getting busier, look, as more people venture down the pit lane with just 6.5 on the clock.
Yeah, Cheever here on his first flyer into turn 4, one of the other heavily banked corners here at Zandvoort. Doesn't run super high. See a lot of cars actually run over the white line because they carry so much entry speed as we go on board with this Ziggo sports car. Like I said, easy flat through here. You can't comprehend how much grip these GT3 cars have at speed. Short, sharp brake into this long, long right, double apex. Third gear, hard on the throttle, brake just as the curb stops on the left. Throw it over the curb on the inside, has a little nibble. We're purple in sector 1, hard on the brakes, all the way down to first gear. This Ferrari is geared so long. Got another short, sharp acceleration zone. Bit late and bit hard into there, because we're going to have to try and work with a late apex and hope to keep the Delta happy on exit. You will get a good exit with a late apex, but not easy as he's about to break the beam for sector 2, and it's 2 purple sectors now for this car. Hard on the brakes into the chicane, try and get as close as you can to the gravel trap, then close as you can on the grass. Slow cars ahead. That Lamborghini is not being compliant whatsoever, and that has absolutely destroyed Eddie Cheever's lap. That's a second and a half, 2 seconds gone like an instant, and he is not going to be sending any Christmas cards whatsoever to that Lamborghini.
Right, up to the line then goes Eddie Cheever. He has to push, and he will go top as a consequence to take that away from Rafael Suzuki at 1:33.580. That's half a second down on what Gilles Magnus was doing, and he's going to have another go, frustrated by that errant Lamborghini. So let's see what he can do on his next lap. Others to keep an eye on in this: Christian Engelhardt in number 1 Lamborghini, another Bronze Cup car. You've got Dylan Pereira, you've got Dennis Marshall, you've got Riccardo Fella, you've got Gabriele Piana, Loris Spinelli, Bastian Bus, Luke Hartog. There's some really, really big names. Oh yeah, and Augusto Farfus. So this is going to be a really fascinating final 4 minutes and 34 seconds.
Yeah, and actually Chiva is only 3/10 off in sector 3, so that could have been a stonking lap. It was Spinelli in the Lamborghini that held him up. So if this lap isn't any faster, I expect Chiva to repay the favour of Spinelli, who is going to be on his first flyer somewhere behind us. And that's what you do in motorsport. You fight fire with fire.
Bastian Buss, Porsche, one of the quick Porsche drivers, Bastian Buss, he's doing purple sectors right now as well in one of the Lion Speed GP entries. Eddie Cheever down in the first sector, as you can see, but still the fastest, as here is Bastian Buss then coming up towards the timing line. Porsche Super Cup star and fastest now, so that puts him to the top. A 1:32.812, faster than Gilles Magnus went in the earlier session. So Bastian Buss now is on target for a first outright Sprint Cup pole position and doing it from bronze.
Yeah, and it's the only time so far that's actually quicker than pole position. He's 7/10 of a second clear at the moment, and Chiva boxing, and that was Spinelli here on the shot. Did he impede him? Watch Spinelli's lap time, 36.5. I would say he got held up by some Dutch broadcast-sponsored Ferrari.
And look, Hartog, another quick Dutch driver, up to third fastest then, another of the Porsche pedalers. That's the Rutronic car. 85, that is Loris Spinelli, who's got a mega track record in Lamborghini Super Trofeo, both in Europe and in North America. It's taken him a long time, really, to get Lamborghini to put him into a GT3 project. Now, we've also got an absolute best coming from Dylan Pereira, another of the Audi drivers. So he is going to be on a decent lap this time. But Bastian Buss currently 7/10 of a second up on everybody else in this part of qualifying. But look at the sector time of Dylan Pereira. Personal best, absolute best. And he'll come up towards the timing line. And Dylan Pereira goes second fastest, then up to second in the Audi.
Yeah, not quite quick enough to beat Niederhaus's time or Magnus's time, so it's going to be so tight when we combine these two sessions at the moment. Feller has popped in a lap at the moment to be third in this session, but remember, when we combine them, there's going to be a difference. Farfus pops in a lap. Danish Marshall, purple, sector 1 as well. Spinelli still on a lap. Remember, he only did a 36.5 on that last lap. We didn't see if he was held up with traffic, but expect him to be somewhere in the 1:33 low bracket by the end of this lap.
Right, Spinelli then at the moment is 21st, so he's been elbowed down the order. Dennis Marshall doing an absolute best in the first sector across the timing line, then goes Spinelli, and the lap time brings him up the order, so that puts him 6th. Augusto Farfus is 4th, but this, number 74, Dennis Marshall, he's the next man to look for, but he's down in the middle sector, Joe.
Yeah, we're not seeing many times improved on the second flight. You can see why out that last part of the chicane, big squirrel of oversteer as well. All the cars seem to be oversteering. It was only when we went on board with Auer there was a problem there. We've seen a purple sector from Feller in sector 2. Can Dennis Marshall improve on his 1:33.531 as he crosses the line? Now it's going to be a slight improvement. Yes, 2/10 quicker, up to third.
Okay, that's the car that he shares with Dustin Blattner. So Bastian Buss, Dylan Pereira, Dennis Marshall, Ricardo Feller, Augusto Farfus, Loris Spinelli is the order right now. And what have we got left? Just over a minute as through there. Ricardo Feller last lap was third quickest with an absolute best in the middle. So looking further down the order, who is out of position? Maybe Gabriele Piana's Mercedes AMG you'd anticipate to be a bit higher up the order. Mathis Lismont currently working his way towards the end of the lap. The Corvette at the moment is 18th, and we're into the last minute of the session. But Bastian Buss in the Porsche, yes, I know it's a cleaner road, but even so, a 32.8, that's a really, really impressive lap, and he's now boxed.
Yeah, it might be a cleaner track, but he's still nearly 3/10 quicker than anyone in this clean session. The other point I'd like to make is how close Spinelli and Chiva are in qualifying. They're separated by less than 0.03 of a second, so I look forward to fireworks later between those two. Jamie Day here exiting the chicane. Looks like he's backed out of it. Is he going to go for another lap? He hasn't got time, actually, so he's going to be boxing by the looks of this body language of the car. Looking down, there's a few green sectors, no purples. Does look like Day is still pushing. Is he going to try and get to the line in less than 6 seconds? I don't think he will. It's going to be real tight as he's got to get across the line now, and he just about does it. That was very well timed from CompTU Racing. I'll give him the credit, they counted him down, but gives him one more opportunity, one more roll of the dice.
And while all this has been going on, just a word about Alex Arca in his Audi, fastest now in silver. So you've got Porsche outright pole and pro pole, and you've got Audis at the moment in gold and silver, as here the BMW comes down to the chicane 991, one of the Paradigm cars. So Augusto Farfus at the wheel of it. He has yet to take the checkered flag, but he's down in the sectors, and in fact, as you can see, he's back right off, coming out of the Hans Ernst Bocht 52 Ferrari in the background. Marcus Siebert at the wheel. That was in the gravel yesterday when Jacques Machiels put the car off the road between turns 2 and 3. As Farfus then brings the Darren Lung BMW down the pit road. But a really, really good job done by Bastien Bus, the Porsche Super Cup champion going back a couple of seasons. We've seen him in World Challenge Europe, in Asian Le Mans, in the Asian Championship as well, GT World Challenge Asia. But yeah, really, really impressive job, and no doubt we'll hear from him in due course. Checkered flag is now out, and I'll tell you what, now you start to blend the times together, it is going to be a really jumbled grid, isn't it?
Yeah, so the qualifying we've just seen here, Boost is going to be overall pole, Pereira is going to be 4th overall, and then Feller, who's 3rd in the session, will be 6th overall. So it's actually quite a fair split between the two qualifying sessions, which is maybe not what we expected at the start of this session. After seeing how dusty and dirty session 1 was there, we maybe thought this would be the strongest session out of them all, but good to see that it's all worked out relatively fairly, I would suggest.
Can't wait for the race, because it's going to be very, very busy around here, and the pit work is going to be perhaps more important than ever, given that it's not the easiest of places to overtake at. At turn 3, that first banked corner has in the past given a real diversity of lines. You know, you can go high and you seem to gain the place around the outside, but then as you come out of the corner, the inside line sort of comes back and has the quicker exit. So you do get some good racing around there, and people are going to have their elbows out to begin with, because it is going to be so busy. But it's the 3rd time a bronze car has been on an overall pole in sprint. We've had it in the 2 Spanish tracks of Barcelona and Valencia, I think I'm right in saying, in the past. So a job well done by Bastien Bus, and that goes back to what we said before the session started. They might be in the Bronze Cup, but when you've got platinum graded drivers or manufacturer drivers, they're going to deliver.
Yeah, and he did an absolute stonker of a lap, and that is going to really set them up well for a very strong race 1. Remember, there's 2 races, though, so this is only half the story so far.
Very true. So, Bastien Bus has done it. He is on pole position. He takes that Rover Pole Position Award. Let's hear from him with Alex.
And Bastien Bus takes our pole here at Zandvoort for the GT World Challenge, powered by AWS, and a very nice pole lap that was. Did you expect it to be quite so good for the Porsche?
I would say we had a bit of I had a struggle yesterday. Sister car was good, so within the team we knew we had the pace. And yeah, I mean, it was a bit of a surprise, but lap was good and everything worked out for the one push. So yeah, super satisfied. The team did a mega job since yesterday in pre-qualifying. So a lot of work has been done, late hours, and yeah, now we take the success from it.
Can you get much more out of the car? What do you anticipate for the race?
Oh, the race is different. Yeah, we have a good lap on qualifying. The tire seems to drop a bit, so yeah, now we have to go back and analyze and sort out our stuff for the race. But yeah, sure, pole is a great starting point. So best of everyone. So we are looking forward.
It certainly is a very good starting point, and MG is now going to present you with your Rover Pole Award. Bastien Bus, congratulations, very nicely done.
So Bastien Bus takes a first pole position and gives pole to Porsche as well. And in the final analysis, it will be the line speed Porsche ahead of the Santaloc Audi. So Bastien Bus ahead of Gilles Magnus, 3rd in the times, the better of the Trezor Attento Audis. That's the Dylan Pereira car. 4th, Patrick Niederhauser, 5th, Ricardo Feller, and 6th, Alessio Rivera on the times from earlier on. But that really impressive effort from Bastien Bus. I'm not saying it's going to come to naught, but the race will be a different proposition. He has an AM co-driver, the experienced Basha Mardini, but now the focus is on winning the class, not the race outright.
Yeah, exactly. And the best thing he can do is at the start of the race, just try and break clear and at least give the biggest possible lead over to his teammate Basha Mardini, like you said. And that's where the pit stops are even more important for the teams. They've got to get it done as quickly as they can, remember, changing all 4 tyres and the drivers. We were seeing it done in around 17 seconds stationary time with only 2 mechanics working on the car.
A word about the circuit as well. We've talked about the fact it's similar to Brands Hatch with undulation. It's not the widest of tracks. There are some overtaking opportunities. You're looking at one of them, that Tarzan hairpin, but also there are quite a few pinch points around here. Yeah,
and there's corners that you highlighted already, turn 3, that look like an overtaking spot, but then turn into a very narrow, why did I lunge there kind of feeling. There's a few of those half-hearted overtake spots, which always means contact is possible, as we see one of the Emil Frey Ferraris, I think that's a 69 car. Vermeulen was down in 11th, wasn't he, in Q1A, so they're going off to Parc Fermé for some checks. But yeah, overtaking spots, turns 1 and 11, the chicane are the best, but then there's really 4 or 5 half overtaking opportunities at 3, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13. So there's possibilities, but it's not easy.
Not easy for sure. Those Ferraris really ripping up the form book, but for the wrong reasons. Lots of people, as I said, pre-session saying, yeah, it's going to be a Ferrari qualifying this. Well, we've ended up with one of the biggest surprises of the season. Not only Porsche that was struggling a bit yesterday, but a Porsche from the Bronze Cup as well. But a mighty effort being done by Bastien Bus, that is for certain. The Lion Speed team getting stronger and stronger all the time. Bastien Bus, who is, in fairness to him, a gold as well. So taking on the Platinums and coming out on top. So a very well done effort in the qualifying by the team as much as by the driver. So we have Bastien Bus then for provisional pole position. Let's just look at the highlights of that 2-part qualifying session. It began, of course, with the pros and the gold graded drivers, Gold Cup drivers out on track first. Lucas Auer was pushing hard, but his final effort came to naught when he slithered off the road down at the Hans Ernst Bock. The Ferraris were rapid yesterday, but not rapid enough when it counted, despite the efforts on, for example, Alessio Rovera and Thierry Vermeulen. One of the stars, though, of the second part of qualifying was Dennis Marshall, who hauled Dustin Blattner's car into the mix. So too in the Audi from the Tresor Attempto team, the almost anonymous-looking car of Dylan Pereira. But through it all, Gilles Magnus was the quickest in Q1A, and he was fastest in the end in gold. But the fastest outright, as well as taking the bronze pole position, was Bastien Bus, and he will be on pole position for race 1 this afternoon.